Great news. There's a quick way you can save money. Switch to Geico. Geico could help you get great coverage at a great price. And it only takes 15 minutes to see if you could save 15% or more on car insurance. Go to geico.com today and see how much you could save.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Oh! What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every weekday over the airwaves of ESPN Radio, 250 plus markets across the United States of America, plus ESPN Radio on Sirius XM Channel 80. Today, a new addition to the show has officially arrived. As of today, and from now on every weekday from 1 to 3 p.m. live, this show will be simulcast over the airwaves of ESPN News from 1 to 3 p.m. I am happy to have you. Not only am I on radio, not only am I on national radio via AM, FM dial nearest you. Check your local listings. Not only am I on Sirius XM, but I am also now on national TV, the Stephen A. Smith Show. All by my lonesome, right here on ESPN News. Thank y'all so much for welcoming me into your homes or wherever else you're watching me. Needless to say, I will do my best to deliver the goods. By the way, when a player doesn't like a contract, they hold out, right? Well, with Straight Talk Wireless, you never have to because there is no contract. And they use the exact same 4G LTE towers as the big carriers, but for a lot less. Straight Talk Wireless, only at Walmart. Refer to terms and conditions of service at straighttalk.com. It's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. You know what? First things first. I am no golf aficionado. When I play, for every one shot that I hit straight, I hit about 3 or 4 wide left or right. I'm a decent putter. My mid-range game is suspect. I do not play on a regular. Nobody's going to confuse me for being Steph Curry, who's pretty damn good on a golf course, mind you. I am no aficionado, but I will tell you, and I will tell you as clear as day, make no mistake about it, what I saw from Tiger Woods yesterday was special. Now, if you look at it, ladies and gentlemen, a 64, his best score ever in the final round of a major, 130 over the final 36 holes last 2 days, which was a PGA Championship record, finished 14 under 2 strokes behind Koepka. This kid, this 28-year-old kid that smacked shots an average of 324 plus yards. This brother was special yesterday. And because of Tiger's heroics, with essentially people speculating or just saying, you know what, Tiger really lost this tournament in the first 2 rounds on Thursday when he bogeyed and double bogeyed because he ended up only losing by 2 shots. See, if he hadn't done that, he'd have won this tournament, blah, 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 blah. Let me be the first to say, I was excited. If you saw some of my tweets yesterday, I was incredibly excited by Tiger. Back 9, he was absolutely spectacular. Birdied about 3 different times on the front 9, and this is after his tee shots weren't that impressive, which has usually been the case with him. His putting game looked pretty damn good to me. And I just looked at him and I just said to myself, you know what? It was special. But a lot of people were getting on me because if you recall, when I've been on TV over the last several months, I'm saying Tiger ain't winning another major. I think it's done. His mojo's gone. And obviously yesterday that didn't appear to be the case. Nor did it appear to be the case at the U.S. Open, when he finished with runner-up status there as well. So he had a chance to win the last 2 majors, didn't get it done. Bottom line is this. You look at Tiger and you're saying, hey, he's back. He's back. This is Tiger Woods we're talking about here. This is special to see. Numbers came out in the ratings, up 69% from last year. Lots of things to celebrate about Tiger yesterday, make no mistake about it. I was incredibly impressed. No doubt about it. And Tiger deserves our credit. He deserves our adulation. He deserves our love. All of this stuff. Look, enough's enough. The man made mistakes. He obviously suffered emotionally because of it. And then after that, you got the injuries, about 4 different surgery, including spinal fusion surgery and all of this other stuff. We wondered whether he was going to ever play again. He comes back last year. He wasn't ready to go. All of this stuff has been talked about when it comes to Tiger Woods. I get it. I totally understand it. And because we saw something a little bit different, because we saw what this man did, birdieing numbers 12 and 13 as the crowds were going crazy, bogeying at the 14th, the par 17th, to me, told the story, basically augmenting my argument that I've been making against Tiger Woods. Even though he's got his mojo back to some degree, even though he's balling and he's competing, and that deserves to be recognized. Ladies and gentlemen, I stand by my statement. As great as he was, this same player that was ranked 1,199th in the world as recently as December, who has now climbed to number 26th overall, who finished runner-up yesterday at the PGA Championship. I'm still sitting here telling you I don't believe it. Now, you know how some people go, Stephen A, he's a hater. This guy, they want to throw something at the TV already. They already don't like ESPN News because of what the hell I just said. I understand. But allow me to retort. Here's the thing. When you look at Tiger, whether it's tee shot, his mid-range games, shooting out of the bunker, putting, whatever you want to say, listen to my words, my reservation, my trepidation about Tiger Woods is what he can do over the course of 4 days. Not one, not two, 4. Tournaments start on Thursdays, they finish on Sundays. And can that dude sustain the level of excellence that's going to be required in order to beat the dudes that are standing in his way? As in yesterday, Koepka and Adam Scott. Is it going to be enough to beat everybody? See, when you knocking at that door, but you've never won it, and there's a level of starvation that kicks in and what have you, that's one thing. We saw it years ago when the Detroit Pistons were chasing the Boston Celtics for supremacy within the Eastern Conference when Isaiah Thomas and Joe Dumars and the bad boy Pistons had this insatiable appetite for success where they were willing to beat and mug people if necessary in order to capture a championship. There was a level of starvation. And then once they put their foot on your neck and they tasted champagne, they didn't want to stop. And it took the greatness of Jordan to knock them off because he was starving more than they were. Tiger Woods ain't starving. 14 majors. Chasing Jack Nicklaus' record. That's basically all there's left. And you saw Tiger Woods. Here's why I was salivating and I was getting really, really excited about him, because I saw the hunger. I saw what he did on 11. I saw what he did in various holes, actually. And what I saw was an individual that said to me, I want it bad, I want it bad. And he's not satisfied. And he was willing to go after it. I saw that killer instinct. But then he messed up on 17. And then it was clear he wasn't going to win. But then he pumps his fist on 18 after he nails his final shot. A 19-foot putt. Like he had won when he knew he hadn't. And I'm saying to y'all, it's similar to what I said to my man Max Kellerman about the Yankees and the Red Sox over a week ago after the Red Sox had swept the Yankees. 4 games at Fenway Park. Remember I said that? The Red Sox had swept the Yankees. And my exact words were, you're 9.5 games out. The American League East chase is over. You're not winning. Oh, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? They're the Yankees. Sanchez is out. Judge is out. But what about when they come back? I said, excuse me, that doesn't mean Boston's going to lose. You got all of these games being played by all of these people. Boston ain't losing. Sale ain't letting it happen. Porcello ain't letting it happen. Betts ain't making it happen. Martinez ain't making it happen. Benintendi ain't making it happen. It's not going to happen. They're going to win the division. Period. That's what I said, because you need somebody else not to show up in order for you to overcome the deficit that you face. That's what Tiger Woods, essentially, that's what I'm saying about him. This kid Koepka, that's 28 years old. You got Tiger literally giving out quotes saying, well, I was practicing with him, and I mean, did you see him? I mean, oh my God. The shots were going 325 to 350 yards in the air. Wow. That's how Tiger Woods was talking about him. And I'm supposed to believe you're going to beat this man? This man who's won 3 majors in the last 14 months or so? Who's won 2 majors this year? Who doesn't seem to show up unless there's a major that's going on? And the major is the one thing that has evaded your resume as of recently. Let's use our heads here. Tiger Woods is great. Tiger Woods has the potential to be great again, consistently enough to be relevant and competitive. And of course, he could end up winning a major. What I'm proclaiming is that you'll need somebody else to stink or not get it done when it counts in order for him to do it. And when I look at these young thoroughbreds, man, they're not scared of him. They're not fazed by him. They ain't worried about no damn Tiger Woods. You know why they happy Tiger's on the course? Because they get to make more money. Because the more Tiger is relevant, the more money the sport of golf generates. And as a result, they all benefit from it. I will say this, however. It was great to see yesterday. It was great to see. And you know what was great to see? You know why it was so great to see? Because at a day and time where we're talking about everything off the field, protests going on in the NFL, Isaiah Thomas tweeting or whatever he is, periscoping or whatever the hell he was doing about the Cleveland Cavaliers, stories about where LeBron James' kid is playing basketball or how there's highlights about him getting a dunk or something. In a day and time where we find everything to talk about but the games, Tiger Woods had the sports world transfixed on golf for no other reason than pure, unadulterated, beautiful golf. It was scintillating. It was exciting to watch yesterday. And it reminded us of what sports is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be the ultimate distraction from what really ails us in our society. It's supposed to be about something that pulls us away from the dregs and the drama of what we have to deal with in real life. It's supposed to be about the closest thing to a meritocracy. And yesterday, that's what it came down to. Football can't give it to us right now because there's too many distractions off the field. Basketball can't give it to us because the balance of power is so dramatic, because the Golden State Warriors are so head and shoulders above everybody else that deep in our hearts, we know where the champions are. Actually, don't even have to go that deep. We know who's going to win the damn chip, at least last year. This year, I can make a case that Boston could give Golden State a run for its money. So all of those kind of things going on are the kind of things that I'm paying attention to. Those are the kind of things that I feel. And I say all of that to say to you, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. It really, really was. And we owe a lot to Tiger for giving us that moment yesterday. It was something special to see. And you know why it was something special to see? Because there's other things that ain't so special. For example, this story that's percolating in the news about the death of this 19-year-old kid, this offensive lineman out of Maryland, Jordan McNair. You know, I got to tell you something. It's pretty damn sad what I'm reading. For those of you who don't know, University of Maryland announced Saturday that head football coach DJ Durkin was placed on administrative leave after reports of a toxic environment within his program. This came after 3 staff members were also put on leave following an ESPN report that detailed a coaching environment based on fear and intimidation within the program, and questions about the workout that led to the death of offensive lineman Jordan McNair. Timeline for those of you who may not know, Durkin was hired in December 2nd of 2015. He had served as a defensive coordinator at the University of Michigan and was brought to Maryland after previous coach Randy Edsall, formerly of Connecticut, UConn, was fired by the university. The next month, January of 2016, he hires Rick Court as head strength and conditioning coach at Maryland. Court had been in the same position at Mississippi State prior to being hired at Maryland. Fast forward to May 29th of this year. Jordan McNair, the offensive lineman, was hospitalized after showing signs of heat stroke and exhaustion while participating in a team workout. McNair had difficulty finishing a set of 110-yard sprints and is found to have a body temperature of 106 degrees at a local hospital. Sources told ESPN.com that McNair did not finish the runs on his own strength and was eventually walked around the practice field before being taken for treatment. Understand the nuance there. He can't finish. The body temperature is 106 degrees. This 110-yard sprints that it was demanded that he perform. He couldn't finish. And while he could not finish, instead of checking on him, according to his camp, or the information emanating out of that side of the camp we purport, he was walked around and finished before he was allowed to be checked out. Hence, he ultimately passed away. This is 15 days later, June 13, 2018 to be exact. Dies in a hospital at age 19. No cause of death had been officially released, but ESPN had since learned that heat stroke was the cause of death. The next day, Maryland holds a news conference with acting athletic director Damon Evans and Durkin, along with team physician Dr. Frank Henn. Evans details the workout and timeline of events that led to McNair's eventual hospitalization. Evans announces that an external investigation will be conducted, but declines to name the organization that will conduct it. 5 days later, June 19th, Maryland announces the hire of Rod Walters, a sports medicine consultant who oversaw athletic training at Appalachian State in South Carolina, to conduct a review into the death of McNair. 2 days later, June 21st of this year, ESPN.com confirms the McNair family retained the law firm of Murphy, Falcon, and Murphy to represent the family. Billy Murphy, one of the attorneys from the firm, later says a lawsuit is, quote, likely, end quote. June 25th, 4 days later, Evans is named full-time athletic director. He had been at Maryland since 2014, had been serving as acting athletic director since April. August 3rd, this month, August 3rd, practice officially starts, and according to sources, the culture of bullying led by Court continues. And then, of course, a week later, the ESPN.com reports allegations of a toxic coaching culture under Durkin and the strength and conditioning coach Court. Multiple sources close to the program describe past behavior of intimidation, humiliation, and verbal abuse that created a culture of fear for the players. The sources also reveal allegations of unhealthy eating habits and using food punitively against the players. In other words, we're not going to feed you. And then, of course, August 11th, Maryland announces Durkin has been placed on administrative leave. Ladies and gentlemen, this man, the head coach, is clearly in trouble because a 19-year-old died on his watch. His level of culpability remains to be seen. Here's where it gets interesting. And this is where the subject really becomes a bit more expansive. Bullying? Who's to define bullying? Because you see, if I'm talking to my producer, Jonathan Winthrop, or my other producer, Nuno Texiera, or my other producer, Catherine Pastor, well, John might feel he's being bullied. Kat might sit up there and say, what's the problem? I see no harm in it. So what? He raised his voice and screaming, yelling, depriving one of food. Well, who's to say? What universal policy is there? I played college basketball. I played for the legendary Clarence Big House Games. I recall him one time. We got blown out at St. Paul's by 30. It was a 4-hour ride back to Winston-Salem. He refused to feed us. In today's day and age, is that bullying? Is that excessive? Should he be relieved of his duties? Now, if the weather is 100 degrees outside and you're deprived of water or something, I can understand that. If you refuse to examine him and kept pushing and pushing and pushing when the kid clearly collapses and he needs help and assistance in finishing drills, I can understand that. I am in no way trying to imply that Maryland or that the Jordan McNair family does not have a case. Please don't get me wrong. Don't misconstrue what I'm saying. I'm simply saying when we use words like bullying, intimidation, humiliation, that's highly subjective. What's humiliating and intimidating to one person is a shrug off their back. I remember years ago watching Allen Iverson be coached by Larry Brown of the Philadelphia 76ers. They were in a playoff series against Chuck Daly, God rest his soul. Chuck Daly's Orlando Magic. Larry Brown was about to scream on Larry Hughes. Allen Iverson sprinted across the court, and right before Larry Hughes got within earshot of Larry Brown, who was about to scream his head off at Larry Hughes, Allen Iverson took both of his hands and cupped Larry Hughes' ears and walked him away from Larry Brown. And Larry Brown looked at Larry and Allen Iverson and said, "What the hell do you think you're doing?" And Allen Iverson said to him, quote, "Yell at me. I can take it. Tell me what the problem is, and I will communicate with them." Because what Allen Iverson was saying is that I can take it from you, Larry Brown. Larry Hughes cannot. So if Larry Hughes can't take it, but Allen Iverson can, how, if you're listening to something like this, is intimidation, humiliation, verbal abuse, etc., how do we know how wrong it is? I might talk to John. He might start crying. I might talk to Catherine Pastor. She might start laughing. And Nuno, he'll just ignore me. We don't know. We just don't know. And that is where it gets tricky. Those are my thoughts. What are yours? 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. The Stephen A. Smith Show, AM, FM, dial 250 plus markets across the nation, plus Sirius XM channel 80. And of course, as of today, right now, they had the audacity, the unmitigated goal. I don't know what they were thinking. They put me on national television all by myself. I don't know. I really don't know what they were thinking. But I ain't mad. I'm not mad about it. That's Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. It's what they wanted to do. So here I am. 888-729-3776. It's your boy live on ESPN News. Holla at me in a minute.
Computer, execute 12.4p operation.
Optimizing algorithm. Running encryption packet alpha. Night. Oh, I don't feel so good.
What is it, computer?
Is it hot in here? It feels hot in here. I feel a little clammy. I should lie down or something.
A computer with a virus? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
Those oysters Rockefeller were a mistake.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show. ESPN Radio and ESPN News being simulcast on ESPN News live for the very first day. This is the debut of the Stephen A. Smith Show being simulcast on ESPN News. Number to call up as always is 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. Surprise a friend or loved one today with a bouquet from 1-800-Flowers.com. When you order a dozen multicolored roses for only $29.99, you'll get another dozen absolutely free. So go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. Before I get to the phones, again, at 888-SAY-ESPN, it's 888-729-3776. Plus, you can catch me on Twitter at Stephen A. Smith, Facebook at Stephen A. Smith, Instagram at Stephen A. Smith. I wanted to switch gears before I went to the calls. Got a lot of calls about Tiger, about the Maryland football situation, and more than open to talk about that. But I'm having Louis Riddick, our NFL analyst extraordinaire, on the show with us at the top of the 2 o'clock hour, or the top of the hour number 2 of the Stephen A. Smith Show, actually. And I'm going to ask him about a bevy of NFL items. But one of the things I'm going to ask him about is the protest. And for those of you who may have missed it, I felt the need to make sure that I state my position very, very clear. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to make sure that everybody knows that the Colin Kaepernicks of the world, the Eric Reeds of the world, and others, as American citizens, they had a right to do what they did. I don't think Colin Kaepernick should be blackballed because of it or what have you. Having said all of that, I think it's time for the protest to come to an end. Marshawn Lynch didn't stand for the national anthem. He's been doing this for about 12 years now. No one ever said a word. We've got Kenny Stills for the Miami Dolphins taking a knee. Colin Kaepernick tweets him in support of his position. Malcolm Jenkins raises a fist. Colin Kaepernick says nothing. Now, obviously, Malcolm Jenkins didn't take a knee like Colin Kaepernick did, so it made sense. But nevertheless, even though Colin Kaepernick didn't, quote unquote, ask anybody to take up the cause that he ultimately provided a spark plug for, that was the subsequent action nevertheless. As a result, the president of the United States ultimately got involved, hijacked the issue, turned it into something that it was not about. It wasn't about patriotism. It was about inequality, brutality on the part of some police officers, et cetera, et cetera. The point is, where's it going? What's the plan? Where do you go from here? And more importantly, while alienate those within the NFL family who you were never targeting to begin with. So my position is simple. You want to make some noise? You want to really, really resonate? Don't take a knee nor raise a fist during the national anthem anymore. Certainly don't do it at football stadiums. Instead, NFL players, excluding the teams that are playing on Thursday nights, NFL players have Tuesdays off. How about all of y'all collectively march on Washington? Does anybody have any idea how powerful that would be? If every NFL player marched together on Washington in an effort to bring attention to causes that need to be addressed. You're taking it right to the doorsteps of the decision makers and the influencers who have the power to make a difference. You're bringing it right to their backyard. And the likelihood is that hundreds of thousands, if not more than that, will join you in an effort to make this statement. And what would the president be able to say then? Because you're not protesting at National Football League games. And it's not a national anthem issue. You're reminding the nation what the real issue is about. And you're, as my man Joe Madison with his show on Sirius XM Urban View says every moment, you're bringing it where the goats can get it. Where it's clear as day what the agenda is, and it can't be convoluted. It can't be misinterpreted. It can't be hijacked. The players and everyone in support of their position, including Colin Kaepernick, can march on Washington. Now it's no longer an NFL issue. It's an American issue. Spearheaded by NFL players who cared enough to give a damn and use their collective significant clout to bring attention to an issue that needs to have attention brought to it without it being misconstrued or convoluted. No one would be able to say a word. They would all have to agree this is a valid point. And when you see the support that the players would be able to garner, that would make their efforts even that much more profound. Rather than sporadic protest, which really are demonstrations, because protests are when you directly in somebody's, you're directly in the face of the oppressor. When you're not engaging in direct confrontation against the individual, the entity, the commodity, or whatever you have a problem with, it's essentially a demonstration. No more demonstrations at NFL games. We're going to take it to Washington. I'd be shocked if less than 1 million people showed up to support them. I'd be shocked. Just a thought. Something you all should consider. 888 say ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. The Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, and now being simulcast live for the very first day on ESPN News. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to the phones. Let's go to Ivan. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Hey, Stephen, longtime fan, man. I love it when you say blasphemous to
thank you,
Ivan. Back there on the. Hey, listen, I just wanted to point out and just maybe get some comments from you. Iger doesn't really have that intimidation factor anymore nowadays, so I think it's going to be tough for him to take these thoroughbreds down, like you said. Back in the day, you know, he had that intimidation factor where basically he won the tournament before he even started. And my second point is, don't you think that Brooks Koepka is like the Mike Trout of golf?
Well, I'm not going to say that. I'm thinking about Stewart. I'm thinking about Day. I'm thinking about Scott and others. I mean, listen, it's big time that he's shown up and he's won 3 majors. No doubt about it. He's only 28 years of age. But in the same breath, you know, let's pump the brakes a little bit. Where else has he been? So let's see what he does, and let's see how long this is going to be sustained. When we talk about Mike Trout, we're talking about the best player in baseball, who, by the way, has been excellent over a sustained period of time. So there's a level of consistency that Mike Trout gives to us that most guys don't. So let's be very, very careful before praising somebody to that degree. But I appreciate the call. Thank you so much. Robinson, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Hey, Steve. First and foremost, my condolences to the family of this child, man. It's tough.
Yes, sir.
And second of all, congratulations on your show, man. You're the man.
Thank you. Go ahead.
First-time caller. It's a shame that this nation is going through all this stuff, all this racism. You know, you can sit in college. As a father, it's tough because, you know, I have a 19-year-old myself in college. It's, you know, what this family is going through.
Wait a minute, Robinson. But why would you point to race? I mean, when they talk about this coach and the culture of intimidation and humiliation and what have you, they did not isolate any kind of demographic. They sat up there and said this football coach is that way with the players, and there's a culture that exists here that's very, very alarming in terms of how he's treated his players. It didn't say how he treats a black player or a white player or anything. Anybody that plays for him, this is how he coaches.
Well, true, but I look at it as a different point. You know, I think if it would be a different color race, we would be talking, you know, different language. But unfortunately, you know, it's tough. It's tough.
I got you. I appreciate the call. Thank you so much. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't know that race has anything to do with this subject involving the Maryland football player Jordan McNair. We really don't know. What we know is that there have been accusations that a culture of humiliation, intimidation, and just excessive behavior, food deprivation as well, what have you, that may play a role. We don't know whether it was isolated towards black players or white players or whatever. Usually when you have a coach has his few favorites. And outside of his few favorites, everybody else under his wing is subjected to uncomfortable circumstances, may I say. And that usually doesn't have much to do with color at all. So let's just be careful. Obviously, DJ Durkin, the head coach for Maryland that's been placed on administrative leave, has some issues that he's going to need to address. There is no doubt about that. But let's pump the brakes on going that far in terms of bringing in race until we know more. That's just an irresponsible thing to do. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. By the way, back with more of your calls about Maryland, about Tiger, about the NFL, about my protest, about my proposal, rather, to end the protest with the NFL. All that and more coming up before Louis Riddick comes and joins me in studio. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show. Live on ESPN News and ESPN Radio, of course. Back with more in a minute.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it. I'm Superman. Hey! Jim Bet. I want to hit myself. When's the last time you were at the game or concert? Go to vividseats.com/ESPN today for your exclusive discount offer. Vivid Seats, the official ticket partner of ESPN. Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show right here on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. Simulcast on ESPN News debut was today. It's today. Still going on. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Back to the phones we go before my man Louis Riddick comes on the line. JP with Stephen A. Talk to me, man.
Stephen A., thanks for having me. Two quick points. One about the Maryland kid and one about Colin Kaepernick. Real quick. First, the Maryland kid, I think the NCAA should be responsible. The university doctors should be responsible. Heads have to roll. This is not acceptable in 2018 for things like this to happen. When we have too much information out there, telling us,
and too much money available. You could have medical staff, at the ready and what have you. There are a multitude of things that could have been done to avoid this tragedy. I completely agree with you. Go ahead.
Exactly.
What's your second point?
I agree with you. My second point, you are a genius. You are a genius. Because it's time that we put this away. I was going out with this girl, and every time I used to go to her house, she used to complain, no, you can't watch football because I'm protesting. Not only, on the field, in the stadiums do we have division, we have division at home. I love football. I cannot watch football at home because, my significant other is protesting it. And she has and she is right to be protesting it. Now, here is the solution. The genius Stephen A. Smith came up with. Let's walk on Washington. Let's walk on Washington. And not just once. Let's do it every year. The football players, the basketball players, the hockey players, the baseball players, all athletes. Let's march on Washington. Let's come together there. Instead of ruining the game every week, we're talking about.
JP, the bottom line is this. The president has successfully gone about the business of hijacking the issue and turning it into something that it wasn't. Okay? And the reality is that the original intent, as honorable as it may be in terms of bringing attention to issues that ail our communities, that message has gotten lost in the shuffle because we're busy talking about NFL and protest. And the NFL ain't even the ones the players are protesting against. It's societal issues. And so why not take it right to the steps of Washington, right where the decision makers are there, and let's do it. And I promise you, hundreds of thousands, if not 1 million people at least, would show up in support of these NFL players. And to me, that would send a profound message. But I got to get on out of here, JP. I appreciate the call, and I thank you for agreeing with me on both of those points, all right? 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Up next, we'll get into some NFL items, some NBA items involving Carmelo Anthony, and how Kawhi Leonard may have cost somebody their job. I'll explain that and so much more because there's a lot of stuff to get into, including Des Bryant's tweets and reactions to it. More of the Stephen A. Smith Show, hour number 2, up next.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Great news. There's a quick way you can save money. Switch to Geico. Geico could help you get great coverage at a great price. And it only takes 15 minutes to see if you could save 15% or more on car insurance. Go to geico.com today and see how much you could save.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show right here on ESPN Radio and ESPN News now.
Hey, that's what I'm talking about,
ESPN News right now. By the way, become a new card member. Discover Card will match all the cash back you've earned dollar for dollar at the end of your first year. Learn more at discover.com/match. Limitations apply. Welcome back again to the Stephen A. Smith Show right here on ESPN Radio. My honor and privilege to have my next guest on the line. Not what am I saying on the line? See, you're sitting right next to me, and I already forgot. My bad.
I get it.
Louis Riddick, what's going on, big time? How are you?
Hey, man, this is good. Hey, you got your own background on TV.
I'm doing it.
I'm trying
to do a little something.
Yeah, you're doing more than something. You're doing more than that.
Let's get right to it. First of all, a week of preseason games are gone. They're over with. What's the number one story that stood out in your mind for the preseason?
Well, for me, it was really look. I mean, obviously, everyone wants to talk about the quarterbacks and how good some of them looked, and then how not so good some of them looked. But I think context needs to be applied to all those kind of situations, Stephen A. Because some of these guys played with some good people around them as they were on the football field. Some guys didn't. So look, I mean, that's one story. That's the biggest story. But the story for me that I was watching, I wanted to see just how your boy Saquon looked as soon as he touched the ball. And you know what? One of the things I had tweeted about was the fact that, and talked about was the fact that there were people who were knocking him when he came out of school about the fact that he couldn't make people miss behind the line of scrimmage, prevent negative runs.
Right.
Well, didn't that first run kind of answer some of the questions?
Well, it did. I'm going there, Louis, but it's one run,
just
Louis.
Trust me, though. Trust me when I say this to you. You know I don't go all in unless I believe it.
Okay.
He's legit now. The guy has got some sweet. He hears these things, too. He hears these things that people are saying about him, too. I think we're going to see one of those years up there, man, that you're going to remember when you're talking about a rookie running back who's going to come into this league and really take a whole franchise, put it on his back, along with everything else that surrounds the New York Giants. They're going to be back.
Okay, now let's break this down because I know you know. We've got Odell Beckham Jr. with the ankle injury coming back from that.
Yep.
Question mark.
Yep.
Sterling Shepard can ball. We know this, but he's on the upswing. Is he going to show up again this year? Because last year was a down year for everybody. We've got an offensive line that has been altered to some degree. Can't get much worse.
Yeah.
All right, we recognize that, but how better is it going to be? Eli Manning's 37. All right, I gave you 4 things right there that could get in the way of Saquon Barkley's productivity. To that you say what?
I'll say this. Look, his productivity, as long as the offensive line stays healthy, I know people say, well, the left side is better, but we don't know about the right side of the offensive line.
With Eric Flowers there, of course we don't know about the right side.
But you know what? I believe this. I believe the whole will be greater than the sum of its parts, meaning this. Even though maybe 2/5 of that offensive line aren't maybe up to snuff, 3/5 of it are going to be very good. Saquon's going to be just fine. They're going to run the ball with efficiency up there because Pat Shurmur is a great head coach. He just is, and he's a great schemer and a great, let's just say, evaluator of the opponent in terms of knowing how to attack.
All right, don't call me a killjoy here, but how do we know that Pat Shurmur is a great coach? What evidence have we said that he's a great head coach?
I don't know if you know.
Okay, I don't know.
I know.
All right, how?
I'm going to say it.
I agree. You know more than me.
Look, I don't mean
you
it like
forgot more than I know.
No, trust me.
Right.
I don't mean it like that. I don't mean
it
disrespectfully.
Right.
Only because I worked with the guy when he was in Philadelphia.
Okay, I got it.
And I believe many times that people are much better at their second go-around. Look, Pat's learned a lot from his time in Cleveland. There were some people, I don't know how many coaches would have succeeded under those circumstances in Cleveland. Pat understands offensive football. He understands defensive football. He understands how to attack an opponent's strengths and weaknesses. I sat with him in meetings in Philadelphia as an advanced scout talking about how to attack an opponent, and we had those kind of back and forth. So I know how he looks at opponents, and I know how he knows how to attack people. He'll be just fine that way. As far as the other people you're talking about, look, the whole relationship thing with Odell Beckham has to be ironed out. They have to get to a point where they trust this kid, and he trusts them, and they got to get that contract done.
That's what I was getting ready to say. How can he trust them and they won't pay him?
You know, exactly. But you know what? I just get this feeling that, look, and I've talked about this a lot. I love Mr. Mara. I love how he treated me when I went up there and interviewed. I really do. Mr. Tisch as well.
You should have had that job, but that's a different subject for another day. But
there's something about that situation that they just are not comfortable with. Otherwise, I don't understand why this isn't done. And to me, it's a trust issue. It's, can we trust the fact that as soon as we make this commitment, you're going to continue to do things the way we need them done?
Would you trust him? Would you trust Odell Beckham Jr. based on what you've seen, based on what you've heard?
You know what? I can't
would you trust him?
I can't say 100% because I don't have the relationship with him. And that's the first thing I told them is the first thing I would want to do with him is to honestly say, hey, look, let's put the mics away. Let's get everyone else out of the room. Let's you and I just talk for real. Because you know I want you. You know we need you. And we know that you are one of them kind of players that when it's all said and done, people should be talking about you for years, generations. You have that kind of skill. But I need to trust you. You need to trust me.
But does he?
And I don't know what their relationship is like with him. I don't know what Dave Gettleman's relationship is like with him.
But Louis Riddick, is he audacious from the perspective that it's not just that he wants his money. He wants to be the highest paid receiver in all of football. And I'm thinking Antonio Brown, Julio Jones. I can't say that Odell Beckham Jr. deserves more than those two dudes right there. How do you feel about that?
Well, you know what? Contract negotiations and paying guys is always about projecting the future, right? Okay. So let's just assume that they believe as though, you know, he, from a health perspective, is going to stay healthy and could play for 8 more years, right?
Okay.
So in that regard, I would be willing to make the bet as far as him continuing to get better as long as you take care of the rest of the football team. To me, it's not about that. It's not about how good is he going to be and how much better is he going to be on the football field. To me, it's about, again, look, Odell likes to do his thing. He likes to do it the way he wants to do it. There's always something surrounding him, though. And, and I always say this, trust is not just about whether or not a guy has been arrested or he's been suspended by the drug policy or something like that. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of guys in this league right now who I wouldn't trust, and guys who I played with who I wouldn't trust, who were never arrested, never suspended. But I know what they were doing. I know the kind of decisions that they make that are not the kind of decisions that you want being made under your watch when you're the one who's responsible for building the football team.
We're talking to Louis Riddick, NFL analyst extraordinaire, right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. Go ahead, Riddick.
No, I'm just saying those are the things that right now, and people will say, look, Odell's never been arrested. Odell's never been suspended. Odell's never run foul of the law. Right. But that doesn't mean that people trust you. It doesn't mean that people don't know that maybe some of the things that you're doing could put you in situations that could lead to that kind of thing. And I'm not saying that he's done that either. But that is what it always comes down to at the highest levels here when you're talking about the money he wants.
If that's what it comes down to with him, and it certainly is obviously poignant points that you make, what's the excuse for the Los Angeles Rams for not paying Aaron Donald? I mean, you're bringing in Dominican Soon, Marcus Peters, Aqib Talib. Now, obviously, you traded for them, you put in free agency, all of this other stuff. We get all that. Paid Todd Gurley, who deserved it. Yeah. But you took care of everybody else. And the only person that was there when you made the run to the playoffs last year that you took care of was Todd Gurley. Yeah. Aaron Donald was there, but in Dominican Soon, Marcus Peters, Aqib Talib weren't there, but they're on this roster. How do you explain this?
I think this is strictly a case of old-fashioned sticker shock. Because when we see this contract, you're going to see why they were sitting there going, man, we actually gave in and gave him this money. He deserves it. Look, the quarterback market, the top end of the quarterback market has been expanding exponentially in terms of guaranteed money and average per year, right? Mm-hmm. The rest of the league, the rest of the positions haven't caught up in terms of that same growth relative to the salary cap. Aaron, guys like Khalil Mack, they're saying, guys like Antonio Brown, guys like Odell Beckham are saying, hey, wait a minute. We want to see that same kind of growth too, given what we have done in this league relative to our own position. Aaron is saying, look, I'm a pass rusher. I'm a hunter. I'm one of those guys who, in this day and age, you need me.
And he's 27.
In order to combat the way the offense is going to explode this year anyway. And he's 27. And I do things the right way.
And he's got Ndamukong as a teammate.
That's right. And I'm homegrown. And the perception is you're paying all these outside guys. Guys are watching on our own team and around the league. If you don't pay Aaron, you won't pay anybody. If you don't do right by Aaron, you're not going to do right by anybody. But I'm just telling you this. When it all boils down to is this. The Rams know that this contract is going to make people's heads explode. And it's going to. It's going to be, I believe, in the low to mid-20s per year.
Who has a greater argument for themselves as it pertains to getting paid defensively when you bring into account Aaron Donald and you compare that to Khalil Mack's situation in Oakland?
Oof.
That's why I got you here.
I'm going to say Aaron because of the fact that, look, this is a kid who's been defensive player. Well, so was Khalil Mack.
That's right.
Okay, so look, I'll put it this way. Because of the fact that they have brought in all these other players on this football team who they have paid pretty good money, and they're trying to make a push right now to go ahead and get to the Super Bowl, given the fact that Jared Goff is on his rookie contract, and that they are not cash-strapped in any way. This team has cash. This owner has cash. It's not like a situation in Oakland where maybe it's a cash issue with Mark Davis not really having the money. The actual money. Look, teams can create salary cap space. However, they can always create salary cap space. It's merely a cash budget issue many times when you're talking about the kind of money that's getting paid here. I think Aaron has the case to say, look, y'all have the money. You know what I mean to this football team. We know what we're trying to get after, given that Jared is still on his rookie deal. And you know what I've done. Pay me. I know that you guys are having sticker shock. I know you don't think that the money at my position and at positions outside of quarterbacks should grow the same way quarterbacks have grown. But I'm special. I'm a once-in-a-generational player.
But what about Khalil Mack? Particularly when you got John Gruden coming down and saying, well, our defense was bad last year with him.
Yeah,
that didn't
you
help.
know what? No, it didn't. And look, Khalil has a very legit argument to want that kind of money too. Look, all these kids, I call them kids because I'm as old as I'm getting. All these guys deserve their money, Stephen A. They do. And they deserve to see the top end of their market grow just the way the quarterback market has grown, especially pass rushers, because there's only one way from a defensive perspective that you're going to be able to slow down offenses, and that's rushing the passer. Because the further you get away from the football, the less physical the NFL wants it.
Let me put you on the spot again. Let's just say for the sake of argument, Aaron Donald gets signed. Khalil Mack gets signed. When we talk about elite defensive players this upcoming season, assuming they're both signed, and you add J.J. Watt's return. Because remember, J.J. Watt was injured. We were talking about Aaron Donald, who was holding out last year, comes back in right before the season begins, wins NFL Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah.
Who we going to be talking about? When you compare those three in terms of their impact on the NFL this upcoming season, assuming all three are on the field. Because I can't ignore J.J. Watt. I just can't ignore him.
Whose impact will we be talking about? I think we're going to be talking about I think it'll come down between JJ and Aaron only because those are the two best teams. Those two, look, the Texans are going to be legit. The Rams should legitimately be in the NFC Championship game this year. So I think Aaron's, not only his impact on the football field, but I think because of how much talk it has gotten as far as his contract situation is concerned, we're going to be talking about whether or not that has had any kind of negative effect on that football team. So I think he's the one we're going to be watching all year long because the expectations are so high out there. And I really do think that the Rams right now are walking a very fine line. And I know they don't think they are. They think that, look, that Sean McVay can handle all these disparate personalities and all these combustible personalities.
What is he, 31, 32
but
years
I will tell
old?
you this, having built football teams that way where you bring in a whole bunch of free agents because you think that that's what you need to get you over the hump, it's good as long as it's good. If they start losing some games, get on a bad streak, I'm just telling you, mercenaries go their own way. And that's what they've got out there. They've got guys who weren't drafted by that team. They don't bleed those colors out there. They don't look at themselves as homegrown Rams. They look at themselves as guys who were free agents who went to a situation where they thought they could win and get paid. And when things go bad in those situations, you know this, whether it's basketball or anywhere else, all of a sudden, what people wind up caring about then is, hey, did my direct deposit hit?
That's right.
That's all I want to know.
Louis Riddick, NFL Insider Extraordinaire for ESPN, right here with Stephen A. on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Let me go back to some of the rookie quarterbacks. A lot of noise being made. Baker Mayfield, his performance on, his first preseason game. Sam Darnold, same thing with him. Now everybody talking about they both need to be starting from week one. I don't happen to agree with that. I think Tyrod Taylor should start. I think Josh McCown should start. I think that those guys shouldn't even be seen for the first 5 weeks of the season. Your thoughts?
I'm one of these people who believes this. Organically, if they deserve to start, let them start. I don't ever think I won't say that Baker Mayfield has to sit because would just be best for him. I don't know if that would be best for him because I know this. Situationally, he looked fantastic in that first preseason game. He looked absolutely fantastic. Sam Darnold situationally looked fantastic. He had some plays on third down where he looked like a vet who was comfortable in their system and was ready to go. Now, I know it's preseason. It's the first week. You're going against watered-down coverages that aren't even game planning for you. But as they move through this process and as we get to September, if organically Hugh Jackson thinks that Baker Mayfield gives them the best chance to win, I don't really care if he's a rookie or if Tyrod Taylor is the darling of Cleveland who people think, look, he's a winning quarterback. He just hasn't been surrounded with good people. If Baker's better than him and you think you can win with him, that's why you drafted him number one overall. It wasn't because you think Tyrod's the future. It's because you think he's the future.
Quick question for you on the Browns before I move on to another subject. How the hell did they end up being the ones on Hard Knocks? They were 0-16 last year. Is there an explanation as to why they ended up on
Teams
Hard
fight
Knocks?
tooth and nail, man, to stay off of that. I don't know. I mean, some people don't like the scrutiny. NFL, you know how the NFL is, man. They always think that they're like guarding top secret state secrets, right?
I guess what I'm saying.
And they don't want people to know about what they're doing in their meetings and all that. Look, there's a lot of teams I'd rather see on Hard Knocks than the Browns.
I guess what I was saying is if it was called Soft Knocks, then I could understand it. You're 0-16, but Hard Knocks, I mean, my goodness.
Hey,
come on
but
now.
You know what? Some of the teams that you'd really like to get, pull back the curtain and get behind, they ain't ever going to let you.
That's right.
They never. You think Bill's going to ever let you get?
Never allow it.
I mean, you know what would be interesting? I'll tell you a team that would be interesting to see on Hard Knocks. It'd be interesting to see the Steelers on Hard Knocks.
I think so. Tomlin alone.
I'd love to
Tomlin
see Mike.
alone.
Because you know what? Mike is so guarded, and you don't really know much about him. Right. But he's so... If you talk to him, look, he's so smart. Mike just has that very stately personality. I'd love to see other people see the same thing.
He knows how to be interesting and compelling without saying much.
That's right. That's right. When he puts some glasses on and pulls that hat down, he's legit.
Listen, let's move on. When we look at right now at this 2018 season unfolding, the NFC is very, very interesting to me. I understand the AFC is interesting because Mahomes, I'm interested in seeing what he's going to do in Kansas City now that Alex Smith is gone and they've been raving about him. Interested in seeing what Oakland's going to do. I expect the Steelers and the Patriots to be there, okay?
Yeah,
and don't get me started with Marvin Lewis and that man still having a head coaching job. Can't win a playoff for 15 years. But let me go to the NFC. I don't know who should be put in what necessary order. We've got the reigning defending champions, Eagles. We've got the Rams, who should be there with all the changes that they've made.
Yep.
We've got Aaron Rodgers returning, but he's in the NFC North with Minnesota having Kirk Cousins. And we've got New Orleans, who should have been in the NFC Championship game if it wasn't for the biggest fluke that I've seen in the modern era.
And they have one of the best quarterbacks that ever played this
That's
game.
right, and Drew Brees.
When people start giving Drew Brees his respect, I'm just telling you, man, I'm getting so tired of it.
We are right on the money with that.
I'm getting tired of it. This man has thrown for 5,000 yards five times. No other quarterback has done that more than once.
He's special.
I've said that 100 times. Okay, look, the NFC is a gauntlet. There's no question about it, man. And all those teams you just mentioned have great cases for having legitimate shots at being in the NFC Championship game. I'm going to say this, though. All right. Philly has something intangible going on there that I really believe in. Okay. And you can't measure it. You can't just forget the personnel, forget the fact that they were defending champions, forget the whole.
In the interest of full disclosure, I have to let my audience know we're listening to a former executive for the Eagles now.
Okay, but you know what? Hey, but
I believe in you, but I got to tell them that.
But I'll tell you this. It's not like my departure there was like, so it's not like, hey, you know what I'm saying? I ain't carrying no water for
I got you.
But I'm going to be objective as I can. I believe in Doug Peterson. I have from day one, Stephen A. When people were ridiculously saying he was one of the worst head coaching hires in the history of football, I was like, you're out of your mind.
Right.
This man knows how to coach football. He knows how to relate to players.
I believe in him.
They have something going there. I think they're going to be back in the NFC Championship game.
Only thing that I would potentially disagree with you about is this. I think the Eagles are a different team at home than they are on the road. Lincoln Financial Field is a monster to play,
it is.
Okay?
It is.
If you have to go on the road to New Orleans, it's a problem. Now, if you got to go on the road to freezing Lambeau Field, all right, in Green Bay, it's a problem. You're going to go to the Dome in Minnesota, that's different. You want to go to the sunshine of L.A., that's different. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
But to me, New Orleans, Green Bay, those are two places that the Philadelphia Eagles must avoid.
I'm going to tell you something
I'm going to
tell you right now, I'm going to tell you something that just cancels out all of that.
Okay.
When you got hunters like they've got on their defensive line, and you've got an offensive line that has the depth that this offensive line has, I don't care where they have to play, when they have to play, how they have to play. That'll cancel out all that. And they have built their football team, quite honestly, Stephen A., in a way that kind of negates all those different factors that a lot of times can really determine success.
I'm calling you out. I'm calling you out. Louis Riddick, you're my brother. You're my brother. You're my brother. I'm calling you out. Here's why. Last year, was it not you that came on my radio show and you was talking about how the Rams were going to be the team? Didn't you say, wasn't that you?
No, yeah.
Let me fast forward. Let me fast forward.
Yeah,
because now you're talking, you just brought up the Eagles defensive line.
Yeah.
You know what I'm looking at? If Donald is back with Ndamukong Suh, with Brockers, excuse me, that's a monster line.
Oh, hey, I'm not saying that the Rams aren't legit, and you know I have
Clement and Ajayi in Philadelphia ain't Todd Gurley in L.A.
You're right. You know I've got legit Rams love.
Okay.
Especially Jared Goff. I went out on an island on that guy.
Yes, you did.
And look, Aaron Donald, come on now. You know how I feel.
Yes.
But this is different. See, the locker room in Philly, and I'm not saying the locker room is bad in L.A. I'm just saying, though, I think Philly is built to weather what naturally is a season that can take some unexpected turns, right? You can have a couple injuries. You can have maybe hit a little bit of a lull to where I think that their chemistry and their togetherness there in Philly is kind of a known commodity for them. They've been through it. They know what it's like to be back up against the wall and have to deliver. The Rams have so many unknown factors that are going to wind up being known once this season is over in terms of all those different players that they brought in. That's the thing that scares me about them. They're taking a big risk with the way they built their team. That's the only thing I'm saying is going to hold them back.
Last question out of here, and you know I'm going to have you back. I love having you on my show. Thank you for being my first guest on television for ESPN News. Let me say this to you. I made a proposal. I'm veering right here. I made a proposal earlier today on First Take, and I said, you know what? Whole protest issue has been hijacked.
Yeah. For sure.
Bottom line is, if you really, really want to make some noise and want to make a difference, stop protesting during NFL games. The players collectively on an off day march on Washington. All right? Hundreds of thousands of people will join you. I have no doubt.
Yeah, they get some
just
attention.
to make their presence felt. What do you think about that idea?
I'm all with it. I'm with that. That would for sure get some people's attention. And you know what? And then
NFL owners don't have an excuse.
Hey, you're right. And then I would love to see the reaction by certain people and by a certain individual then to say, hey, look, not about the flag. Never was about the flag. Never was about the anthem.
That's right.
Now what? Now what are you going to say? Now how are you going to respond to us? Now are you going to listen? Because that it would just, then, kind of the message would be kind of like veered off in another direction, then another excuse would be made, because you know that really people don't really want to address what they are trying to have addressed, because that's just the way it's been. And quite honestly, some people are just comfortable with it that way, and some people just don't really care. But it would absolutely be a great initiative for the players to take to say, hey, look, okay, you know what? Y'all don't want to listen to us because of how we're doing this here. We're going to go to plan B. Now what? I would be all with it. I'd love to see that.
Louis Riddick, always appreciate you.
You bet it, man.
Keep up the great work, man.
All right.
Thank you so much. The one and only Louis Riddick right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. By the way, do you have frequent heartburn? Like the kind where you have an acid stashed everywhere in case it pops up? You know what I mean. You keep some in your bag or your desk or your car or your nightstand. You have those chalky tablets ready for whenever and wherever heartburn strikes. Well, listen up. There's an easier way to deal with your heartburn. Prilosec OTC. Just one pill a day will last a full 24 hours with zero heartburn. Kick your antacid habit. It's possible with Prilosec OTC. Use as directed for 14 days to treat frequent heartburn, not for immediate relief. More to Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. In a minute, back with more.
Computer, execute 12.4p operation.
Optimizing algorithm. Running encryption packet alpha 990. I don't feel so good.
What is it, computer?
Is it hot in here? It feels hot in here. I feel a little clammy. I should lie down or something.
A computer with a virus? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
Those oysters Rockefeller were a mistake.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Before I get to the phones, a couple of things. Number one, as an aside, not a sports item, some new political party is developing, and the one and only LL Cool J is a candidate that folks are clamoring for. Let me say this about my brother LL Cool J, who does a great job on NCIS out in L.A. and the whole bit. Let me be very, very clear. Very talented, articulate brother, very smart, very conscientious. Got a lot of love for him. And most things, I mean, there's very, very few people in this world we look at and we say we should support. But whatever he ventures to do, he'll always have a supporter in me. Just want to say that. Number two, friend of mine, former colleague here at ESPN, a 3-time NBA champion with the San Antonio Spurs. His name is Bruce Bowen. Bruce Bowen essentially is not being brought back by the Clippers organization because obviously they're in pursuit of Kawhi Leonard. And according to reports, Adrian Wojnarowski sourced information in the aftermath of critical comments about 2019 free agent target Kawhi Leonard. Bruce Bowen won't be renewed as the LA Clippers television game analyst next season, sources tell ESPN. Bowen was under contract with Fox Sports West, but the Clippers, like every organization, have significant input into the hiring of television broadcast talents and withheld approval on extending his contract, sources said. Here's what Bruce Bowen said about Kawhi Leonard on June 22nd, that nearly 2 months later are being held against him. Quote, I think there's nothing but excuses going on. First, it was, well, I was misdiagnosed. Look here, you got $18 million this year, and you think they're trying to rush you? You didn't play for the most part a full season this year, and you're the go-to guy. You're the franchise, and you want to say that they didn't have your best interest at heart? Are you kidding me? Bruce Bowen continues. I think he's getting bad advice, talking about Kawhi Leonard. I think what you're starting to see now is an individual given a certain amount of advice, and it's not the right advice. Here it is. You were protected in San Antonio. You were able to come up during a time where you could still lean on Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, and Manu Ginobili, end quote. Ladies and gentlemen, Bruce Bowen was 1,000% right in what he said. He just shouldn't have been the one that said it. See, what happens is that because you worked for the San Antonio Spurs, nobody's going to believe that you're coming from an authentic position. Everyone's going to look at you and their belief is going to be that you singing that song and dance on behalf of the organization. I think Bruce Bowen is 1,000% right. I completely agree with what he said. I just don't believe he should have been the one to say it because he's a bit compromised because he worked for the San Antonio Spurs. He still lives in San Antonio. He loves the Spurs organization. And so people are questioning your level of objectivity. I support my brother Bruce Bowen, but I can understand what the Clippers are doing. They clearly believe they have a shot at Kawhi Leonard because I'm told Kawhi Leonard desperately wants to come to L.A. He would love to be a Laker, but if he can't be a Laker, he has no problem being a Clipper as long as he's back in L.A. Jerry West knows it. Doc Rivers know it. Lawrence Frank knows it. Steve Ballmer knows it. And as a result, they're making a run at him, and they got the cap space to go after Kawhi Leonard. And if he's with the Clippers, he won't have that paparazzi kind of atmosphere because nobody follows the Clippers the way they follow the Lakers. There you have it. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Back to the phones we go. Eric, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
What's up, Stephen A.? I disagree with you on the NFL football players ending the protest during the anthem.
Okay.
If they do that, I can see Donald Trump tweeting in a second, I won, and how else, and what other thing would he try and get them to do? It seems to me you might be putting fuel on Donald Trump's fire.
Stop right there. Here's why I disagree with you. The position of the president has been a lack of patriotism on the part of NFL players, which we know is patently false. It's not true. But that's been his position. If the players are not protesting during NFL Sunday games or Thursday night games, and instead on an off day, they collectively come together and march on Washington, and they have the support of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people who agree that light needs to be placed upon these very, very issues that Colin Kaepernick and others have broached. I don't think the president has a leg to stand on in that regard. Now, that's not going to stop him from saying anything, but he certainly can't accuse them of being unpatriotic because they march on Washington. If that was the case, what could he say about the protest that took place this weekend? You have white nationalists protesting in the nation's capital, and a small group of them, by the way, and they were completely overwhelmed by anti-protesters for the white nationalist group who showed up in the hundreds, if not thousands.
Right, but we're still talking about the anthem, though, and that's what Trump wants to keep.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is
the topic on.
But what I'm saying is you're not talking about the anthem if they march on Washington, but then they're not protesting at games.
Understand that, but Trump is still going to focus on patriotism one way or the other.
Yeah, but the difference is he had in a lot of people's eyes, he had a point because they were exercising those protests, or you could call it a demonstration. They were exercising it while the national anthem was being played at NFL games. If that's not what they're doing, and it has nothing to do with the national anthem, when they show up on Washington, what would be the issue then?
I understand what the issue is on Washington, but you keep on taking it to Washington. I keep trying to bring it back to the original, what Trump hijacked it to. He's hijacking patriotism. He doesn't care about the racial inequality, otherwise he would have done something about it.
Well, I agree, but what I'm saying to you is that, again, the backdrop of it all has been NFL games while the national anthem was being played. So if it's not during an NFL game, and if it's not while the national anthem is being played, and if it's American citizens exercising their right to peacefully protest, and NFL football players decide to participate in that with the support of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people who are not kneeling during the national anthem at NFL games, then I don't see how he could make that case. But I appreciate your position. I understand it, and I thank you. Matt, you're live with Stephen A. Go ahead.
Stephen A., appreciate you taking the call, man.
Thank
I wanted to speak on the Maryland situation.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I had the joy of playing for a Hall of Fame baseball player for 2 years, and what I noticed was they let the resume do the intimidating. They don't have to intimidate as a coach or a manager because the resume does all of the intimidating that needs to be done.
Okay.
What I mean by that is you don't have these coaches or managers yelling at players. You don't have them trying to live vicariously through the players. You don't have them trying to intimidate or scare the players because you simply understand that this person knows exactly what they're talking about. Okay. Now, what I mean by that is this. I really think that these colleges and these associations that are dealing with amateur athletes need to take more time and look at who they're hiring.
Okay.
Because you can't have people teaching the game who've never played the game and have never gotten their cleats dirty.
Well, listen. We're not going to go about. I'm not going to go there. Here's why. I've known plenty of coaches, and I'll go the basketball route. Jeff Van Gundy never played a professional sports, but he was a fantastic coach. Okay, there are people who can coach who just couldn't play. But their knowledge of the game is undeniable. And I don't think you can ignore that.
But can you agree that we do have some coaches that are trying to live vicariously through these athletes?
I think we have coaches.
Time to learn.
Well, wait. Come on, Matt. Put on your big boy pants. Come on now. You know, you could sit up there and say trying to live vicariously through the players. How about trying to get paid? You see how much money is in the world of sports? You tell me how many jobs you can go to and you getting paid $3, $4, $5, $7 million a year. Who's doing that?
Less than 1%.
Thank you. So, Ben, it's about the money. It's not about living vicariously through kids. It's about using the world of sports, which most of us love and wish we could participate in, to your advantage. And if you can't play it, you found a different way to involve yourself and ingratiate yourself within it while getting paid. It's very simple. It's not complicated. Appreciate the call. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. We'll close out the show with your calls, plus my thoughts on the Redskins-Jets brawl and how that transcends just one joint practice. Stay tuned. Stick around. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio and simulcast live on ESPN News. Our debut today. Back with more in a minute.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it! Back to the phones before we get on out of here today. Make your answers quick, or I will make them for you. Let's go to Darnell. You're live with Stephen A. Real quick. Go ahead, Darnell.
Hey, Stephen, what you think about the Falcons this year winning the Super Bowl with the game being played in Atlanta? And
well, you got a shot. You got a shot. I just don't think it's going to happen. I love Devontae Freeman. I love the combination of him and Coleman. Matt Ryan's got to show up and prove. He's been in the league for 10 years now. One of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league. Blew a 25-point lead in the Super Bowl. Never won a Super Bowl before. He's got some stepping up to do. They got to be better defensively, and what have you. But all the tools are there, except they're in the NFC South. And I would give the New Orleans Saints the edge over them right now. Because as far as I'm concerned, Drew Brees and those boys should have at least been in the NFC Championship game, NFC Championship game rather, last year. If it wasn't for that fluke play, in the AFC, in against Minnesota. That's it. Appreciate the call. Let's go to Jay real quick. Jay, you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Hey, always good, Stephen A. A couple things. I agree with you when it comes to the NFL. They're business. They're about making their money. They don't want to get their dollar messed up. A couple of things I got a different view on this. People keep using this narrative that Colin Kaepernick is out of the NFL because he's kneeling. And my thing is, he wasn't just kneeling. He had pig socks. He had his girlfriend was tweeting. He had a cat.
Yeah, my man Carlton in Tampa brings that up all the time. The Castro shirt in Miami, the pigs on the socks depicting police officers, the girlfriend tweeting, comparing Ray Lewis and Bisciotti, the owner for the Ravens, to the characters in Django, played by Samuel L. Jackson and Leonardo DiCaprio. All of those things. That's true.
And the only two other things. People, like if everybody that kneeled was out of a job, then I'll say, okay, it's kneeling. But it's only, a lot of people who's kneeling, they still have jobs. So I'm not into this kneeling thing as much as other people are. And the only thing I disagree with you kind of is Trump when people say he took the narrative away, because the kneeling thing happened during Obama's administration. And
no,
Trump
he hijacked it because he changed it into an issue of patriotism. There's no denying that. But I got to run. Call me back tomorrow when we've got more time. By the way, before I get to another call, I talked about the Jets and the Redskins brawl. Let me say this. I don't think there should be joint practices going on in the NFL. I don't care about the heated need for the insatiable need rather for competition. The fact is the NFL concerns itself about concussions. It talks about player injuries, player health, et cetera, et cetera. Let them go out there and practice. That's fine. But going up against somebody in a different uniform, they've got no love for you. They've got no inclination to make sure that you're safe and sound, not to mention the fact that additional practices against opposing teams puts a coach and teams in an even better position to judge you and micro-judge you and micromanage you even more. I don't like it. I don't propose it. And I think that they should eradicate it altogether. That's just me. Rod, you're live with Stephen A. Real quick. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Steven. Yeah, it's Rob from Cincinnati, and I just want to tell you that you are absolutely right about the football thing. They need to stop it. They need to stop it now because of the fact that Trump is going to take us to the election. If we don't, and you're right, they need to go to Washington. They need to show up, and I am ashamed that a lot of these football players, baseball players, anybody that has that kind of stature doesn't stand up for these black young men that are being shot down in this world for no good reason. And I thank you, and I thank ESPN, and I'm a lifetime fan, and all I can tell you is I miss Stu Scott, and booyah, baby, booyah.
I don't blame you. I miss Stu Scott every day. For people like him, John Saunders, there would be no Stephen A. Smith if it wasn't for guys like him and John Saunders who paved the way for individuals like me. There's no question about it. And by the way, a guy by the name of Mike Tirico, he works at another network right now, but he is exceptional. He's a consummate professional, and he is also somebody that I miss as well. I just wanted to make sure I pointed that out. Got to get on out of here. I want to thank all of y'all for tuning in on ESPN News, the debut of the Stephen A. Smith Show being simulcast on ESPN News. That begins today, and I'll be on ESPN News every day from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 a.m. to 12 noon Pacific. Plus, obviously, you can catch me on ESPN Radio, 250-plus markets across the country, plus ESPN Radio on Sirius XM Channel 80. I'm going to get on out of here, but I'll be back in 22 hours. Thanks for joining me. See y'all then. Peace and love.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.